One. Hello everybody, I'm Mahin and welcome to this edition of the Bellydance Quickies. So today we are going to be doing 8 different ways to use the front and back end step, and we're going to do a couple that are for beginners, a couple that are for a little more advanced dancers or experienced dancers, and some for some more experienced dancers as well. Plus I have 2 tips for you, one for using this in choreography, a little magic trick, and the second one is going to be more about teaching. So before we get into this, today's BDQ is brought to you by the BDQ Lecture Series, and we have our next event coming up on Sunday, September 7th, and that is going to be with Shayna Silverstein, and it will be about Dabke, and the topic will be Syrian Dabke, the making and unmaking of folkloric dance. So this is going to be a really fantastic talk because she's going to talk about how community Dabke was used as basically a political tool for nationalization in Syria, and what happened to the dance from its community roots by the time it got to the stage being used in this way, what happened to it choreographically, and also some really exciting things about the contemporary Dabke scene in Syria in particular, and about some of the really innovative things that are going to be going on. She's got some examples that she's going to show us. So it's going to be really exciting, and you get to join us live and join for Q&A, and also have 30 days streaming if watching live doesn't work for you. So you can check out all the information down there, and let's go ahead and do those front and back end step variations. Let's dance. Okay, so let's just talk about our basic step first that we're using. So this is what I'm going to call front and back end step. So front and back end, and here. So normally the downstage side would have the active leg on it. Okay, so let's talk. 3 are going to be ones I would use for beginner students, and I'm going to kind of vary up where the interest is. So we're going to use shoulders, we're going to use hips, and then we're going to use arms as a decorative element. So for the first one here, well, of course I would have taught a shoulder shimmy before that I would do this. And so the first one would be to have the shoulder shimmy go on the front and back, front and back, like that, just adding that. So a lot of times the way that I like to describe this to my students is I tell them there's a little magic button on the floor, and when you step on it, it makes their shoulders shimmy, and when they come off, their shoulders stop. So of course that could be also used at the back, but sometimes if you're introducing this for the first time, this on the front is usually pretty good just to get them started, and then, you know, let them put it on the back if they want as well. So that would be my first one. The second one would be to emphasize with the hips, and in this case, I would have them take their hips front and back and really let their hip lead the way in making the angle more interesting. Teaching tip for this one is make sure they don't step too far, because the further forward they step, the harder it is to get that hip to really read and come out. So a small step forward with a good size hip lean is going to be the ticket for them. Okay, so third one. The third one is about just the arms. And so here we're going to use what I would call a rowing arm. So here, kind of a figure 8. And most of the action is really happening kind of around my elbows as opposed to my shoulders here. And this one, we're going to go down along the front leg. So the outside of the front leg. So when I step forward here, and that's going to set me timed up to make sure the rest of this flows the right way. So those are the 3 I would use for a beginner class. So if they have beginners with a little more experience, I might give them a couple of other things. And one of them would be to put an undulation in here somewhere. So if we take the idea of undulation having 2 steps underneath of it, then if they've been accustomed to that, then I would put front and maybe just a plain back, front and just plain back, or plain front and roll back, and plain front and roll back into it. So I would put an undulation in there somewhere. Another one for beginner-ish students, maybe not quite, maybe like on their way to level 2 class, would be a different arm. And that arm is going to be a big circle arm. And the reason I don't put this one in the new beginner category is because the whole arm path encompasses several steps, and that's definitely a thing that is a challenge for a lot of brand new students. So here we would go front to the top and back to the bottom, front to the top and back to the bottom. So those would be ones that I would put in for a little bit more. So let's go on to the ones for more advanced students. So in this case, we're going to think about putting shapes on top. And so one of the shapes we're going to put on top is going to be Maya. So for this one, we're going to put Maya on top. So we're going to think Maya, we're thinking vertical, 8 over the top. So I'm going to be stepping into it. So it's kind of a little more one side of the Maya than the other. So over here, I'm going to go over and back and over and back. I'm going to nice and big on the leg that's reaching front to back. All right, so another one is going to be, well, let's back this up to shimmies again, is shimmy on the leg. So shimmy and shimmy. So adding the shimmy on top of the step. So that would be another one. And then my personal favorite, I saved for last. So this one is ummy. And so this one, I'm going to take ummy on top. And here, how many you do is really kind of a function of how fast your music is, what your music's doing. But it will give you kind of a tip for pairing this. You want the step down to be the bottom of the ummy. So if you think the back, where the ummy drops at the back, that's really the best place that I feel to step into it. So down, and then I'm going to also come up after the ummy hits the bottom again. So it's kind of like I'm pushing off the floor in a way. Not really, but it coordinates well. So down, up, and I usually do another one as I'm on my way back, and then down and back up, and down and up, and down and up, and down and up. And that one's really fun. That one's my favorite one. Okay, so a tip for choreography. If you need to kind of manipulate who is on what foot, like inside of the stage or outside of the stage, and for, have your stage divided symmetrically, you can use this as a 3 and a 4. One depending on where someone needs to be. So let's say you need the people on this side of the stage facing outward with this step to have this foot free. You're just going to have them use it as a 3, whereas the people who don't need to, they can be on a 4. And so it works really well to kind of get everybody on the step they need to be coordinated with the rest of the space. All right, so a couple now teaching tip. One, actually 2 teaching tips. So I gave you a bunch of them earlier as well. So one of them is make sure your students are not doing this. This happens a lot. They're like, well, my foot's not going anywhere. Why do I need to lift it up? Well, because it helps you keep the time of the music and keeps your energy flowing, keeps your weight in the nice swing of back and forth. So make sure that they take their weight off that foot so that it helps everything move smoothly. That's number one. And the second thing I would say is I like to pair teaching this step with teaching a pivot turn, because I feel like they're very related in how we use our feet. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, if we think about a pivot turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, the flow of the feet is very much the same, but this is just kind of the turning cousin of this front and back end step. And I've had a lot of kind of light bulb moments for students where it really helped them to learn the pivot turn by kind of working with this kind of footwork first. So you got 8 different variations for different levels with your front and back end, and also a couple of teaching tips from my many years of experience in a classroom. And so don't forget, we have Shayna on September 7th. It's going to be awesome. I really do hope that you're going to join us for that. So have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.